Cool. So welcome, guys. So we're going to talk about the big crash. Put a bit of dramatic face here. So obviously, it was pretty epic. There's no point lying about it or beating around the bush. It was a big one. So we're going to dive into it. Talk about all the FUD. There's a bit of manipulation going on, I feel, and where we could be heading. I'm going to talk about all different options, not just the good side. I'm going to talk about what could be going on in a bearish scenario as well. So yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, this is for my community, and I've just recorded it to put on the channel as well to give you an idea of what goes on. Not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. Always important to state that. Like I say, in today's video, the first section, we're going to talk about what's going on in the market, and the second section, what are the possibilities going forward. And first, I just want to say, I did get it wrong this month. I was quite bullish for May, but no one really saw what was coming. Maybe an odd couple of people did, but all the experts that I communicate with and follow and whatnot, no one really saw this coming. So yeah, I'm going to put my hands up. But like I say, it was a bit of a mysterious one that came out of nowhere. But in a way, it didn't, which we're going to go into as well. So yeah, firstly, what's going on? I'm going to talk about FUD, market manipulation, weak hands being washed out, and people taking profits. So firstly, FUD, which basically means fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which is normally hyped up in the media and causes all this kind of mass panic. So it all seemed to start around the Elon Musk tweet, which was bizarre because he didn't even say he's selling his Bitcoin. He just said they're not accepting Bitcoin as payment because of the emissions and whatnot. And there's arguments on both sides about the kind of greenness, if you like, of Bitcoin. So it's turned to this big conversation. I'm kind of on the fence of it. I don't fully understand on which side it is because there is a lot of arguments on both sides. But I do think other coins are a lot more kinder on the environment. So that's something to bear in mind long term, because obviously people are more conscious environmentally. I am myself, so I totally understand all that. And maybe they need to use more renewables, which I know they do in some countries to mine Bitcoin. So obviously, he's got a lot of power. I think his tweets will get less and less power when people realize that he does just like to mess around on there. But for now, it seems he's got a lot of power in moving the market. Then we had the China bans crypto story again, which is actually, they'll just reiterating previous legislation, rerunning a story that's run every single bull run. I've gone through all this on the history side of different bull runs, and they say this story always comes up and you can research that for yourself. And some of it's actually positive because they want to stop the coal mining to be used for mining Bitcoin. So it will make it greener and also spread the mining out across the planet rather than a lot of it now, a big majority is in China, which is quite dangerous because it's obviously a very communist country. So it could be a positive long term, but it did cause a lot of FUD within the market. May 17th was tax day in the US, the final day to file taxes. So a lot of people do kind of take profits or losses to kind of tie up the taxes for the year. So that probably had a big part in it as well, because the US is the biggest market within crypto. $8 billion of over leveraged positions got liquidated. So people basically trading with money they haven't got, which after the other FUD created a huge knock-on effect and created a much bigger sell-off than there probably should have been. And then also the US Treasury's called for businesses to report on any crypto transfers over $10,000 in the US, which really is pretty small fry. There is going to be more legislation, and really long term, it's probably going to be positive because it will bring the masses in, if you like, because a lot of them are scared because of the lack of legislation at the moment. And all this has resulted in extreme levels of fear. We've got the fear and greed index, that you can find online for Bitcoin and crypto. And yeah, we've gone all the way down to around 12 at the time of this recording. I think it went as low as 10. And this is the lowest it's been, by the way, since March 2020, so March last year. So it gives you an idea of how big a dip this is and how much fear is in the market. As Warren Buffett says, the biggest, maybe the best investor of all time, some would say, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. These are historically the best times to buy, when there's so much fear in the market. And especially because, like we've gone through the FUD I was talking about, nothing's really substantial to suggest that anything's changed in the market fundamentally. So, like I say, last time we had these levels of fear was March last year. Bitcoin dumped all the way down to 3.5k, which gives you an idea as well when you zoom out of how far it's come. Where the fact it's come down to 30k is like an absolute disaster. It's still up massively since then. And from the bottom there to the top in April just gone, that's 1,742% up. So I'm not saying the upside is going to be that big from this big dump at all, but I do think there is still a lot of upside in the short term and definitely in the long term. And hopefully a lot of you are looking more long term over a few years timescale. So where does this put us on this map, kind of psychologically? So I didn't make these circles because I'm not sure. It's kind of way to kind of put the question. So some people think this is the first kind of major sell-off, and we've gone into what's called a bear trap, which I'm going to talk a bit more about later. I think we could be there. We could also be in this kind of bull trap area. So we've come off the top, and then people think it's going to recover and go back to normal, but in fact, it will slowly kind of come down this way. Could be there as well. Personally, I think we came up to these kind of enthusiasm, greed areas, and we've come back down, and we can still get back up to here at the end of the year, which I'll talk about in more detail in a minute. So market manipulation, you'll notice, you might have noticed on other smaller dips, how all the FUD, all the negative news stories seem to always come at once. And it's the same with the FOMO, which is fear of missing out, or the good stories seem to come at once as well. So I think there's a lot of manipulation in the market. Like I said, the China story comes up every single bull run. Yeah, it works every time somehow. And I think that's because, and it's been proven that a lot of the sellers were people new to crypto. So they don't realize that this story comes up every time. They might not realize that these massive corrections can happen kind of normal within crypto. There's been a lot of panic there. And yeah, these corporations and big money that's coming to the market now, which is good for the long term, for kind of improving our investments and making better returns on them. But also, they are very powerful when they work together. They know how to play the game, and they are ruthless. So they'll happily, put people in these extreme levels of fear until they sell, and they'll happily buy it up cheap. Hedge funds and asset managers bought the dip. That's a fact. Criminal banks like JP Morgan, who have literally been fined over $1 billion in some cases for manipulation, they're getting involved, releasing news stories. And now already a couple of these banks are writing positive news stories. So obviously they've filled up the bags and they want it to carry on upwards now. Whales are accumulating, newbies panic selling. And yeah, this is just something someone found in all the news articles. They're all using this word, which I don't think I've even heard for years, gyrations, all on the same day, using the same word on completely different websites, media outlets. So yeah, I do think it's kind of been a bit of a planned attack to get people in nice and cheap in the market. Washing out weak hands, inexperienced and uneducated people within the space are very easy to manipulate. We've seen that big time Like I say, there's been people buying at 60k and then panic selling at 35, which is of course prime example of how not to invest. You never make money doing that, selling as soon as it goes down. And yeah, that's what we've seen. And it's important to remember you haven't gained or lost money until you hit the sell button. So you might think maybe you did buy it at 60, went down to 30, and you've said, I've lost half my money. Well, you haven't unless you sell it, then you've lost half your money. I still think Bitcoin could have a long, long way up, 100k plus now to put figures on it, but just to give you a rough idea. I still think that is well within reach. And the altcoins, I think, have a lot more to run as well, which we'll discuss after. And also, just simply people taking profits. The total market cap went from 250 billion to 2.5 trillion. So a 10x in a year, which is obviously absolutely huge, especially as the economy is shaky overall, and the stock market and gold and things like that haven't performed anywhere near that well. So people were naturally going to take profits, and now we've come down to 1.6 trillion. So yeah, if you go back from 250 billion to 1.6 trillion, it's still very much in an uptrend. So it's not a disaster. Many people are up, 5, maybe 10x up on the portfolio, or maybe even more. So like I say, perfectly healthy and natural to take profits. And this gives new investors, I know some of you are very new to the group and new to crypto, gives you a better buying opportunity. A lot of people come in and say Bitcoin was up at like 60,000 and they're saying, oh, I wish I got in earlier, because they're wanting to get it, at around 30, 40k and the altcoin's cheaper. Well, this is your chance. We've got this half-time kind of pullback, and we are seeing new money coming in from both retail and institutions. So yeah, I do see this as being a big opportunity. Myself, I kind of got everything in last year and put a little bit in January, February, so I haven't got any other money to play with. But if I did, I'll be buying now. I remember last year, around the start of September, the whole market pulled back 25%. And I've been doing all my research. And even though I felt really anxious about it, I remember just going for it and making my biggest purchases that day. And then obviously 6 months later, all those were up at least, 3, 4, 5x. So I do think these are the best times to buy when everyone's really fearful. Who's selling and buying? So as we've discussed, is a tweet from Anthony Pompiano. The on-chain metrics overwhelmingly show that the new Bitcoin holders are selling to people who have been around for years. Weak new hands selling to strong long-term hands. Here on one day, whales scooped up $5.5 billion worth of Bitcoin, and the price went below 36k. So it shows there's a lot of support down there, and I think this is going to continue. We'll see more whales coming in. I've been following Whale Alert on Twitter. I had a little look today, and there's literally like tens, millions of dollars coming onto the exchanges at once, and these are all people getting ready to buy. Section 2. I know I'm sounding all very positive here, but I don't know what's going to happen. No one does, as you're all probably very well aware. So I want to talk about the different scenarios that could be playing out. We'll start with the most negative. The bear market is here. We're going to start to slowly come down and kind of over a 2-3 year period until the next halving. Scenario 1. Number 2, the usual 4-year cycle is over and we've entered what's called a super cycle. Number 3, we're in accumulation / bear phase within the bull market, which has happened before. I'm going to talk about that. Number 4, it's a bear trap, and the bulls will rage on shortly. So yeah, we must be ready for all possibilities. I'm going to go through each one. So firstly, the bear market is here, or even is crypto dead altogether? Some people say this when there is a big correction, when they're in extreme fear and panic. crypto is dead. It's been said a million times, probably said a million more. I don't think that's the case at all. When you look at the wider picture, I think the market is thriving more than ever. It's got more attention than ever, more users than ever. I can't remember the stats, but Raoul Powell was bringing up all these stats and how many people are coming into the space every year. And if you widen it out, I think you were saying there'll be like 5 billion people that project by 2030 will be in crypto. If that's the case, what we're investing now could be worth silly money, but who knows? Who knows? One case you could say that this is the bear market is that this drop was bigger than any drop in the last bull run. This one was over 50% at one point. I think the biggest one, 2017, was 41%, or the early 40s at least. So you could make that argument. Another indication was the extreme greed in the market, or the dog coins, Shiba Inu. There's even a coin called Cum Racket and all this, and they're still going around now. I don't know how, but yeah. That could be an indication of a top, because historically, when all this kind of crap has happened, it has been an indication of a top, and there's just extreme greed. So you could make that argument. And so, what if it is the bear market? What do we do? I don't think it's the time to sell personally. Obviously, that's everyone's decision to make. But if you have got too much in, maybe you do want to pull a bit out. Sometimes, if it is a top, there's normally a big kind of upside just after, which is what we talked about, a bull trap, where people think it's the bull market and it's not. So that will come, I think, either way. So if you were going to pull any out, wait for a bit more upside first. But I personally won't be taking any out. No way. I don't think this is the end at all. But when we do look to the bear market, this will be a great time to accumulate for the future steadily. And I think staking coins that you can stake and earn passive income on, are going to be really important in that time, because the prices will probably come down quite a bit. So then at least you're actually adding to your coins without having to put any extra money in whilst the bear market's in play. And then you're going to have a bigger bag when the bull market comes back. Second possibility, and the group that I'm kind of in, the leader of that thinks this is the scenario. I disagree, but you could well be right. He thinks that the 4-year cycles are over and we've entered like a 10-year super cycle, like a lot of the tech stocks did. So this is because the market sort of matured. I've discussed this on other videos before. So they think there won't be any kind of bull and bear markets. It will just kind of steadily rise with these big corrections along the way. And if we look at Amazon stock and gold over the last kind of 20, 25 years, you can see here with Amazon, started really volatile, this big jolt up, had a 95% drawback, which makes our 50% look tiny, and then got less volatile over the years. You can see it's pretty much had 20 years of upside. So it's possible when sort of that stage. And even here, look, 57% pullback there, 65% in around 2009, I think that is. And in the early 2010s, some pretty big pullbacks too. So we could be looking at that sort of scenario. And I'd say if we were, we'd be in one of these first two big pullbacks, and you could kind of compare that massive pullback to the 2017 bull market. So it is possible, definitely. And we saw the same with gold. This is the thing, people say, oh, Bitcoin's really volatile, it's more volatile than anything else. Look at these charts, like I've just said, Amazon, 95%, 65%, 57% pullbacks, gold, 49%, 66%, etc., etc. So it is just normal, especially at the start in an emerging market. You're going to have more volatility, and there should be less longer term in the future. Scenario 3, we're in a kind of accumulation bear market within the bull market. So Raoul Pal, we're following, by the way. He owns Real Vision. He loads of good YouTube videos, and he's on Twitter as well. Heavily invested in crypto, and he's trying to educate people on it. And he's got a lot of billionaire kind of friends that he's trying to educate on it. So he's an interesting guy, nice guy as well. So yeah, he's compared it to 2013 and just shown how similar it is. You can see in 2013 had this big pullback here, and then a kind of really slow accumulation phase. That's over a good kind of 6 months there. So we could see that sort of play out. And then it had a big kind of blow off top where it's gone from, yeah, $300 all the way to 1,000 at the end. So yeah, we have followed that similarly so far, and that's possible as well. And this could happen in the build up to the ETF, where we have this big blow off top when the ETF's announced. But I don't think this is the scenario either. Scenario 4, it's a bear trap. So a bear trap is basically when everyone thinks the market has gone to a bear trend and panic sells. We've seen that, but then it bounces back to a bull market in the not too distant future, which I suppose could be, a few weeks or maybe even a couple of months, but not a full-on bear market or accumulation phase that we just talked about. It will come back decently quickly. And if we look historically, this has happened right on cue. So here on the left, 2011, the bull market lasted 9 months after the previous all-time high. Exact same in 2013, exact same in 2017. And in all of them, 5 or 6 months in, there was a bear trap where everyone thought it was over, shook out a load of weekends. Big guys came in and bought it cheap. And now look at 2021, when this has happened, bang on cue, month number 6 in, after hitting the all-time high, we're seeing this massive kind of pullback. And I think, personally, I think this is what we're seeing, looking at all kind of manipulation that's been going on. So yeah, I'm going to talk a bit more about why I think this is the case. Again, this image on the left shows you how it's happened before, but gives you the figures. And it shows you how much more upside happened after the shake off. It's normally the last kind of 2 or 3 months of the bull runs when most of the money's made, really. They normally look a steady build up. So 2013 got up to $259, all the way down to 86. That's got to be a good, 70% pullback, much bigger than one we've got now. And then pumped all the way from 86 up to 1,163. We won't see a pump that high in terms of percentages anymore. Would be very nice. 2017, again, went from 4,700 down to 2,900. And then from down there, after the shake off, the bear trap, went all the way up to nearly $20,000. So obviously an absolute huge run. And yeah, who knows what's going to happen here, but I think we'll see something similar. Like I say, don't like to give figures, but I think it'll be at least $100,000 personally, which I know might sound crazy because of how low we've come, but yeah, history does kind of back that up. Lark here did a tweet on the right, it was a retweet even, showing the amount of stable coins on exchanges, which is at a yearly all-time high. And if you look at so this kind of gold line here is the amount of stable coins on exchanges. For those of you who don't know, stable coins, it's just a coin pegged to a currency. So they're normally pegged to the US dollar, the stable coins that are used. And they're normally put onto exchanges to buy crypto, basically. So you can see with the orange line, every time that's shot up, not long after, we've seen a sharp increase in the price, especially here. Had a big run up here, up to the all-time high. And then it's gone steady, and it's shot up now to all-time high. The price is shut down. So there's people there ready to buy this dip big time. So I think another reason I think it's going to be overturned in the coming weeks. Why else do I think this? We're still hovering around the 200-day moving average, which is the ball line. We are slightly below it, but not dramatically. We could easily climb above it. Like we've had a good day today. I think we're up 14%. If we do another 14% tomorrow, we're well above the 200-day moving average. Still got the US Bitcoin ETF to be launched, which basically means people will be able to trade Bitcoin without actually having to own it themselves. Personally, I like to own it myself, but a lot of people don't, and the same with gold. And when they had their ETF back in 2003, the price absolutely rocketed the years following that. So this would be a huge story. I think there's about 8 ETFs waiting to be approved in the US, and expected to be at least one of them approved this summer. That'll be a big price catalyst. So yeah, I just don't see how the bull run can be over before that's happened, really. And then with other coins, Ethereum's got this EIP 1559. It's a big event coming up. I think there's all sorts going on with that, including they're going to start burning tokens. So it'll be deflationary like Bitcoin. Lots of other good stuff. Cardano is going to launch smart contracts. Polkadot are going to launch parachains. A lot of these projects, they hold back things for the summer. And yeah, even Theta, they're launching version 3 of their mainnet. Loads of these different projects are holding things back to release in the summer because that's normally a favorable time for the prices. So obviously at the end of May, we're coming to summer now, and all these kind of stories. I think we'll see, similar to what we've seen with all the FUD or the negative stories, we're going to see a sudden rush of all these positive stories. And yeah, I think we'll just see a big kind of run upwards. Another point, we're 4 months short. We kind of touched on this. We're 4 months short of the other bull runs. They've all lasted exactly 9 months after the reaching the all-time high. I think we're it might be 3 months, 3 or 4 months short. So I personally think the top will be kind of August, September time. But again, we don't know these things. This could all be completely wrong. It's just going off history and how I feel with the way the market's looking. So why else do I think this is a bear trap? Let's look at 2017. I want you to look closely at this area here. So we had this huge rise up and then this big correction all the way down here. So look at that, and then we'll look at now. Look familiar, but at the top looks very much like this section here before this huge rally up, I think. And that's where I think we are in the cycle. Why else? So we look at the stock to flow model. It's been very, very reliable for years. We're still within the stock to flow model. You can see here, we kind of touched the bottom. I think that was March 2020, this little bottom bit here. We're just kind of touching it now. And I think we'll reach this line, which is at about $100,000, and we'll probably go quite a bit more above it. You can see in 2017, when the euphoria kicked in, it shot up out of the stock to flow into this really kind of blurred out area. And even if we don't get there, even if we just get past the line, we'll still be at a very healthy price then. And yeah, if you're all in now, you'll all definitely be in profit. We've talked about this, there's no point going through it again, but yeah, it's just again the amount of stable coins onto exchanges. It's bolted up, people ready to buy the dip. And we're slowly seeing that happen. Another chart to look at is the Bitcoin rainbow chart. So as you can see, we seem to be just over halfway. We did get up to this orange area, which is this a bubble, question mark. Now we've dipped down to kind of green and yellow, which is the hodl and still cheap area. And yeah, if you look at the other tops here in the red, and even 2013 it went above the red line. So I'd imagine we're going to get at least to the line above the top one, which I think is over 100,000. So I think we'll get to at least 100,000. But again, not financial advice. I don't know this. This cycle could be completely different to the others. But like I say, with the ETF and those other things going on, I do think we're at a kind of half-time shakeout period. Astrology. So I did discuss this in May. I'm not an astrologer. I don't really know what I'm doing with it. And a lot of the astrologers kind of got it wrong. It's actually the opposite of what they thought. The end of May went southwards. They were all expecting a big jump up. But one thing that does hold out is the moon cycles and picking out tops and bottoms, which is really interesting. Obviously, moon cycles affect loads of things, the ocean and all sorts. And you can see here on the left, so the new moons indicate the tops, these clear moons, and the full moons indicate the bottoms. And you can see how accurate that is over the last few months. And we're just coming up to a full moon now, which would indicate a bottom. So yeah, wouldn't be surprised at that. All it does seem like we've bottomed out anyway. I think the full moon's on the 26th. And as I've discussed on other webinars, the wider astrology for digital currency from 2019 to 2026 is very bullish overall. I know a lot of people are very skeptical about astrology, and it's only a small little piece that I use when looking at things. But it is known that JP Morgan and loads of these big investors did use astrology. It's kind of a secret tool that's used by some of the big boys. And last slide today on this, just look at the wider perspective. God, universe, nature, life, whatever you believe, it tests you to challenge our character and help us grow. So on the left here, the plan is, just stroll to the finish line on the bike and, make massive money, whatever. The reality is obviously much more like the bottom. I don't know where we are on this. Maybe this rain bit here at the end, this huge dip. But yeah, obviously, if it was easy, everyone would do well. That's not the case. So this has been a huge mental challenge, I'm sure, for a lot of people. Not gonna lie, stressed me out a bit when it just kept plummeting, but I do feel very confident now. I've kind of took a step back, looked at everything, thought of everything. And yeah, if you've got any abundance or kind of attachment issues around money, that'll definitely come up. So that's interesting to look at in yourself. And yeah, nothing worth having comes without suffering, which I've kind of touched on. But something I was thinking about deeply in my walk today. And I think when we actually get to the top, and hopefully we've all sold out with part of our portfolio with some profit and left some in for the future as well, it'll feel amazing, especially when we've come through these difficult challenges along the way. So yeah, that's just how I'm feeling about it. And yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, this is for my community. We're gonna have a little Q&A now. Check that out. I'll leave a link down below. Starts from as little as £4 a month. And I'm building a website which goes live this summer, which is gonna be packed full of content and detail and how-to videos, everything you need to know, and portfolio support. And if you are new to crypto watching on YouTube, my next webinar is a week today on the 31st of May. I teach you all the basics of the history of crypto, the investing side, the tech side. It's a jam-packed 2 hours with 2 Q&As if you have any questions. Cool, so I'm signing off from YouTube, and now we're gonna have a Q&A with the group. Turn off the recording.